today's episode of Today in World War II, March 26, the French call for total war against Germany. The German High Command gives permission for the horrible Einsatzgruppen to operate in Poland. Montgomery launches a major offensive against the Germans in Tunisia. Hitler decides to inform Benito Mussolini that everything's fine. Stalingrad, yeah, it weakened the Soviets, so the city's definitely going to fall eventually, and the war is going to be won. And Patton makes a incredible blunder that cost 300 American lives. Let's get started. On March 26, 1940, French Prime Minister Paul Reynaud uh, publicly called for his country to wage total war against Germany. Here's my question, Paul. Why did you wait until the end of March? The war was declared when? September 1st, 1939. September, October, November, December, January, February, March, almost all of March. 7 months. Where was the total war call there? Hmm? I mean, all you guys really did up to this point was make jokes about how it was a phony war, and newsreels were doing interviews with soldiers who were bored to death. There wasn't much training going on. Meanwhile, you gave Poland, you and Chamberlain, you gave Poland no help whatsoever. A coordinated assault attack against the German defenses while they were attacking Poland would have at least taken pressure off the Poles. No, didn't do that. Nothing. I hate to say this, but you kind of deserve what you got for whatever reason. You're just imbeciles, if you think about it. Okay. Today's date, March 26, 1941, the German Army High Command authorized the SS to operate their death squads, the dreaded Einsatzgruppen in Poland. So those people out there who I know some of you, one guy used to be a friend of mine, and he was obsessed with the Eastern Front, and he was totally on the German side. And he's like, too bad they couldn't beat the Russians and all this kind of stuff. I get it because, I mean, he's 10, 15 years younger than me. I guess he's in his 50s. Back then, he was in his 30s, 40s when I knew him, and we were these World War II nerds. We like to talk about this stuff. But I kept saying, I get that the Soviets are our enemy, but how could you root for the Germans after all the horror that they did in Eastern Europe? No, no, no. He still loved them. He still loved von Manstein and Guderian and all this. I don't know. It's amazing to me how people cannot see the entire picture. Yes, von Manstein was an amazing general. Rommel, Guderian, the Blitzkrieg, brilliant, strategically brilliant, so on and so forth. But what were they fighting for? It's just like the Confederacy in the Civil War. It's like you can talk all you want about how brilliant Lee was and all this kind of stuff. They were still fighting to keep people enslaved. I don't understand that. But I don't know. My opinion seems to be getting more and more out of style here in the US lately. On March 26, 1943, in the afternoon, the Brits launched Operation Supercharge II. It was designed to exploit a weakness that they felt that was existed in the Axis Italian-German defense in Tunisia near the Tobago Gap. They did a moonlight attack, which I guess you can do that in the desert. Not many shadows there, I suppose. So they pushed through the gap, and they were doing a pincer attack on El Hama on the north. They made so much progress that the Germans had to release some of their reserves, their armor reserves, to counter the offensive. It did force the Germans to retreat. It wasn't a breakthrough, but it was pushing them back. And this time of the war, if you look at the map, Tunisia is not that big. And the Brits were attacking from the south, and they could not exactly trade a lot of land for time like the Soviets did in the initial German assaults. The end times were coming for the Afrika Korps, whatever was left of it by this time. On March 26, 1943, Hitler had a good friend. I mean, had a good talk with his bestie, Benito Mussolini. Mussolini. He made the comment that the Battle of Stalingrad, which was already over, which the Germans had lost, they had lost close to 300,000 They lost an entire army there, for heaven's sake. So he said, "Hey, Benito, that weakened the Soviets so much that this we're going to be able to cherry pick that again real soon, and the war is going to be over." If you remember in some previous not recent previous videos I had talked about his prediction that the Brits were gonna be done here real soon. The Soviets were gonna fall again too as well. Boy, the only thing he didn't predict really, I mean, the one prediction he got right was when he said at the very end of the war that Germany wasn't worthy of him, and that's before he put a gun to his chin and blew his brains out. So other than that, he wasn't very good on the premonition side, let's put it that way. Sadly for me, as a big Patton admirer, on this date, March 26, 1945, Patton committed a huge blunder. I cannot listen. I've gotten a lot of flack from some people on social media about how they felt like Bradley was a better general and that Patton was too glory hungry and was more reckless with the lives of his troops. I acknowledge that. My comeback is always this. He was a strategic and tactical genius. And Bradley, Eisenhower, all the other generals, they were plotters. They would just plod. And yes, by superior numbers, logistics, and so forth, you were going to win. But I feel like that if Patton had been allowed to really cook, that he could have made strategic gains, and a lot of this plotting would not have happened, which would have saved a lot more of American soldiers' lives. I may be in the minority on that, but I cannot defend Patton what he did here. He sent 300 men in armored vehicles. It was called Task Force Baum to liberate a prisoner of war camp where his son-in-law, John Waters, was imprisoned. Well, it was a long way to go for only 300 soldiers. He lost 32 men killed and the rest were captured. So it was indefensible. He's risking all these men's lives to save his son-in-law, who would have been rescued a few weeks later. So I can't defend it. Can't defend it. All right, I can defend you watching this video. I appreciate you being here, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.